going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lollygaggers Fantasy Football Dynasty Podcast. I am your host, Ace Garcia. Alongside me, my co-host, the wonderful Zang. How you doing today, sir?
I'm wonderful. It's rainy outside, but cozy in here. We got a little fire going and ready to talk some football.
Absolutely. Another amazing week of Dynasty as we get into it. This is entering the trade deadline, passing the trade deadline in real NFL, and we are approaching ours. I put the trade deadline a week after the actual trade deadline, therefore to allow guys to find out where some of their players are traded to, and that way you can make your trades afterwards, kind of get your value in that regard. We'll talk about a couple of trades that happened, and one in particular where somebody got absolutely screwed, but I'm not going to... I won't spoil who it is, but you can guess by my laughter who it probably is. But we'll
might be somebody on the mic right now. Who's to say?
We'll save that one for later. But we'll dive right into it to begin this show, as always, with our matchup minute. And the first matchup of the week, we are going to be going over my fellow host Zangarang and Oki. Zang entering this one 3-5. Oki entering this one 4-4. Oki, the heavy favorite entering this matchup, was projected 141 to Zang's 127. Zang kind of in a bit of a free fall right now, as he would tell you. Starting off 3-0. Unfortunately, hasn't able to find a win since then. He has dropped 5 straight. So diving into this matchup right away. Oki getting the scoring started off on Thursday night between the Ravens and the Dolphins. That bludgeoning that took place there. Mark Andrews, the leading scorer for them, 16.6 points scored. Had 2 carries, wildly enough, for 4 yards, but obviously made his money in the end zone. 2 receptions for 22 yards, but 2 touchdowns, and obviously for fantasy purposes, that's all you're looking for, just as long as they get in the end zone or a ton of yards and catches. So a good start to the week for Oki. Moving into Sunday, he kept the pedal to the metal. That Rams quartet of Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka, and the Rams defense once again proving to be the difference for Oki in this matchup. Puka with 22.8, 7 receptions on 8 targets for 95 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 23 points even, with 5 receptions on 7 targets for 60 yards and 2 scores. And then Matthew Stafford, the gunslinger, putting up MVP numbers this season, 24 of 32, 281 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 4 carries for -4 yards. I believe those were all kneel downs. So for what it's worth there, I guess kneel downs can sometimes really screw you. Wasn't the case here, though. Zang did put up a bit of a fight, though. Kaimi Fairbairn, the kicker, showing a bit of kicker love. 17 points from him. He was 5 of 6 on his field goals, including 3 from 40 to the 49 range. Dalton Kincaid, the Bills tight end, had a big day as well in that huge win over the Chiefs. Caught all 6 of his targets for 101 yards and a touchdown for 22.1 points. Monroe St. Brown, the wide receiver one on the Lions, also had a pretty great day, hauling in 9 of his 13 targets for 97 yards for 18.7 points. However, it would not be enough for Zang to overcome his continuous pitfall. Oki did take this one 138.86 to 114.66.
Yeah, the cards were stacked against me a little bit in this one, as I previewed a little bit last show, or maybe in the Discord too. I had, I think, 4 regular starters who were all on bye weeks this past week. I accidentally ended up loading up on Buccaneers for some reason. With Rachaad White becoming a little bit more important than I expected him to at the draft. So a few of those guys being in there and then obviously being out definitely hurt me. I was only running one QB this week. Of course, Drake May did some solid work, but not quite enough to lift me over Oki. And yeah, 6 straight losses is not what you want. I think it's fair to officially say that my team kind of sucks. The nice thing about Dynasty is that it gets to suck next year too. No, I think it'll be a little bit better next year, but we'll figure it out. The cardio king for this week was Roman Wilson. Of course, we mentioned him last week in our wasted waivers as kind of an intriguing option, the Pittsburgh wide receiver. I picked him up during the episode. I thought, hey, what the hell? Let's, get a nice young guy in here, see what can happen. He ended the week with minus 0.6 points, so not exactly the tremendous follow-up I was hoping for after last week's 17-point performance, and with him in my super flex spot, that maybe stung a little bit extra. Oki did walk away here with the fewest points in a win. I have been gifting just everyone that for Christmas. The have your worst week and have it against me, you'll still get the win. That's been my little gift to the league, but tough one. No real bench blunders here. It's pretty cut and dry. Bye week hell for me, and Oki put up enough to, make it through. He's now sitting above 500 at 5-4, and here I am at 3-6, which is not the record you would like to have, but
no.
Someone's got to be near the bottom, don't they? I'm happy to hold the spot for us.
Someone's got to be in the basement, absolutely. Yeah, this matchup was definitely like the Buccaneers bye week because you had Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, and Chase McLaughlin, their kicker. Oki had Bucky Irvin and Chris Godwin, of course, running back 1 and wide receiver 1. Now at this point that Mike Evans is out. So yeah, I think only one of you guys needed a Mika Igbukwe, and you'd basically have the entire.
We'd have their whole offensive core. We'd be good to go.
Oh man. Yeah, awesome. Great matchup there. Apologies, Zang. Man, hopefully you can break out of that soon.
Yeah, one of these days, surely, I keep saying to myself every Thursday as I set my lineup.
Oh, man. All right. Getting into our next matchup of the day, we have both of our matchups back-to-back here reviewing. Myself taking on Rangers. Rangers entering this one 5-3. Myself entering this matchup 4-4. Rangers, of course, the exact opposite of what Zang has been going through. Rangers starting off 0-3 and has won 5 straight since then. And so he has clearly been the hottest team in the league up until this point. I was absolutely terrified coming into this. It was a pretty close matchup projection-wise. He was projected to win, though. He was the favorite, 138.71 to 134.08. So let's dive right into the matchup. I got the scoring started on Thursday night with the Ravens defense. They put up 17 points on Miami. An interception, only allowing 6 points, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, recovered both of them. So a great day and a great start to the matchup for myself here. Rangers did fight back, though, on Sunday. Jackson Dart putting up 27.24 points in a loss to the Niners. He went 24 of 33 for 191 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, and also toted the rock 8 times for 56 yards and a rushing touchdown. Josh Jacobs, the Packers running back, also had a pretty great day in a loss to the Panthers, a shocking loss to the Panthers. He carried the rock 17 times for 87 yards and a touchdown, also hauling in 4 of his 5 targets for 13 yards. Nico Collins also adding to the mix as well, 14.5 points himself, hauling in 7 of his 11 targets for 75 yards. However, once again led by a couple of Chargers and old man Joe Flacco, I was able to have a pretty massive day, I'll say, all things considered. Herbert with a nice game, 19 of 29 for 250 passing, 2 touchdowns. Also toted the rock 9 times for 57 yards and another score himself. Did have another interception that has been a theme for Herbert these past couple of weeks. And once again, that interception robbing him of a 30-point performance. However, two guys who didn't get robbed of 30-point performances were the a dynastic duo of Joe Flacco and T. Higgins. Never thought I'd say that. Joe Flacco with 32.7 points himself. 31 of 47. Yeah, he threw the ball 47 times for 470 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion. He also did throw 2 interceptions, however, and had 1 carry for -1 yards and a fumble lost. So Joe potentially could have had an even much bigger day. However, I will absolutely take that, the 32.7. And a big reason why he had such a big day was his wide receiver, T. Higgins, 33.1 points himself, hauling in 7 of his 9 targets, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. So basically, that was the winner for me with those 3 guys right there. I pulled away in this one 161.9 to 118.24. I do come through with the upset.
Yeah, Joe is just tearing it up at quarterback for the Bengals. Go back to September. Tell a Bengals fan that they'll be super excited. Don't include any last names, but no, yeah, great week from you again. Sort of you and Rangers, that sort of kind of resurgent duo here going up against each other, made for a pretty fun storyline matchup here. Both now sitting at 5-4. Nice to see. Kamani Vidal was our cardio king for this matchup. Just 3 points scored, which was about 13.5 below his projection, which was 16.5. So a bit of a disappointing week there for him, but here we are. And 161 points for Ace. Certainly don't hate to see that. And Rangers had a nice showing in his first week with Jackson Dart as he put up 27.2. So you love to see that. That was obviously a pretty big trade that we discussed last week, and it's nice to see that, kind of showing fruit for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gave up a lot to get Jackson Dart, so to see him still performing at that level, even with Cam Scatterbo, and of course Malik Neighbors has been out pretty much since he took over the starting job. You definitely like to see that. Yeah, I was not expecting this kind of performance. Obviously, anytime you can get 30 plus on average from about three guys, you'll be in pretty solid contention, barring your other guys just not absolutely shitting the bed.
Yeah,
and that's what happened here. Like you mentioned, Kamani Vidal going way under his projection, but did not matter, thankfully, in this matchup here. Moving on to our next matchup of the day, we have Mike Copeland taking on Al Martinet. This one, the two guys coming into this matchup 4-4. This one projected to be very close. Mike, the slight favorite, 129.65 to Al Martinet's 127.69. So very, very close matchup entering it. Both these guys got the scoring kicked off on Sunday. Al Martinet getting things underway with Jared Goff's 19.36 points. Daniel Jones, his other QB, also had a pretty solid day, 17 points there. Oh, I forgot to mention Jared Goff, 25 of 37 for 284 and 2 touchdowns. A nice clean game from him. Daniel Jones, 31 of 50 for 342, a touchdown. However, this is where things start to take a turn for the worse. 3 interceptions. Also carried the ball 3 times for 4 yards and a rushing touchdown, but also fumbled the ball twice and lost both of them. So what could have been a possible 25-plus point performance from Daniel Jones had he just played a clean game. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Jaylen Warren, the running back for the Steelers, also having a pretty solid day for Al. 16 carries for 31 yards. Didn't do much on the ground, but did have 2 touchdowns rushing, also hauling in 2 targets for -2 yards. RJ Harvey, the rookie running back for Denver, also having a pretty solid day. 2 carries for only 5 yards. However, he did most of his damage through the air, hauling in all 5 of his receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown. Mike saw that stat line and said, hold my beer. Caleb Williams with the game of his life, fantasy-wise, I'll say, 20 of 34 in that insane shootout between themselves, the Bears and Cincinnati. He was 20 of 34 for 280, 3 touchdowns, also carried the ball 5 times for 53 yards, also had 2 receptions for 22 yards and a receiving touchdown to Grail, all piled it up to 38.7 points. Michael Pittman also having a really solid day, 20.5 points himself, hauling in 9 of his 12 targets for 115 yards. Ashton Genty, the rookie running back for the Raiders, 13 carries for 42 yards, hauling in all 5 of his targets for 47 yards and another score, 19.9 points from him. However, the big guy, the breakout candidate for Mike Copeland and the breakout candidate on the season, the rookie tight end from Chicago, or in Chicago, I should say, Colston Loveland, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns for 29.8 points on the season. By far his best game.
Say, Ace, how did Mike happen to get Loveland on his team? How did that happen?
Yeah, Mike made a trade with a certain someone, and the certain someone hadn't seen Colston Loveland do shit for the entire season. The most points he had scored in a game was last week at 6.8. And then he goes and does this. So I don't know. Maybe more people need to trade with me because it seems like I trade people away. guys just start popping off for almost 30-point performances. So, and then on top of that, I didn't even mention it in my review, Tucker Kraft tears his fucking ACL. So, yeah, when I just truly desperately would have needed a tight end to fill in that slot. But I digress. Over, Mike Copeland did come away with the win on this one, 168.58 to 125.24 for Al Martinet.
Solid. Sorry about that. Dropped my phone. Solid win for Mike this week. Obviously, cresting that 160 point that we love to see. He did have a bench blunder from DJ Moore. 22.98 points were left on his bench. Really, really big score there. Obviously from the running back. But when you win, it's hard to really call it a bench blunder. It's one of those. It is what it is. Keep it in note. Of course, and our cardio king for the week, Bryce Young, with just 3.98 points scored. He was only projected for 14, which is still not that great. You'd obviously hope for better, but yeah, tough week for Bryce Young there. This, Mike, I think with one of the bigger gambles in the draft, taking Caleb Williams in the third round. Obviously, a huge prospect, but I don't think his first year in the NFL went really how anyone expected or wanted it to go. And the returns have been inconsistent. There have been the, 5-10 point weeks that have been pretty disappointing. And then there are the 38 point weeks and the 29 point weeks and the 24 point weeks. And this has always been one of the most interesting storylines to me is how does the Caleb Williams thing fare out for Mike? His third pick in a dynasty draft was this guy, and when he has a performance like this, and it helps pretty comfortably secure him a win here against Al Martinet, a team he was tied with in record entering in the week, I think that's a pretty big statement for Mike on that. It's hard to say a win, but this is certainly a tally on the win side, for that sort of interesting decision. I don't mean interesting in the ooh, that's interesting, like bad, but that is a bold draft pick in the third round, and I think all of us probably saw him there and considered taking him there and thought it over, and I'm sure some people passed on him, and I'm sure some people were probably hoping to get him with their third round pick or maybe sneak him into the fourth, and he's just a very interesting player here. So whenever he shows up on these lists, I'm always kind of it perks my ears up to note Caleb Williams, especially when he drops almost 40 points here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were a little hesitant on Caleb, obviously, like you said, following that kind of letdown rookie season. A lot of high expectations coming in as the number one overall pick. And then you kind of have, that season, but you bring in Ben Johnson. I think that was very intriguing. I think that's why a lot of people maybe wanted to take the chance at Caleb. Obviously Mike did in the third round, Ben Johnson being the offensive genius that was in Detroit. And it's kind of like you mentioned, been a bit of a roller coaster this season so far. But I think, first year with a new system, new head coach, you're going to see the bumps and things like that. But the important thing is the Bears themselves are winning, more games than they have last season. So that's definitely good to see, and we'll just have to definitely keep an eye on Caleb as we progress.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next matchup, we have KJ Lee taking on JMC. Damn, I almost felt like a couple of initials there, huh? KJ Lee coming into this one 4-4, JMC coming into this one 5-3. KJ Lee was the favorite entering this matchup, 145.55 projected to JMC's 138.58. JMC getting the scoring kicked off. Josh Allen putting up yet again another typical Josh Allen performance. 28.82 points, 23 of 26. A very efficient game from him there against the Chiefs at home. 273 yards passing, one passing touchdown. However, Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does on the ground. Toting the rock 6 times for only 19 yards and 2 scores, however. Kyron Williams, the Rams running back, also having a pretty solid day for JMC. 17.4 points there, 25 carries for 114 yards and a rushing touchdown. And Rashee Rice, the wide receiver on the Chiefs, who has just continued to be fantastic ever since returning from his suspension. Did carry the ball 2 times for 6 yards and a rushing score, also hauling in 4 receptions on 7 targets for 80 yards in the loss. I think I already mentioned the 18.6 points. And Eddie Pinheiro as well, giving some more kicker love here. 12 points by him. including 2 field goals, 2 for 2 on his field goals, 4 for 4 on his extra points. A perfect day from him in a win against the Giants. KJ Lee, however, would not go quietly into the night. Rico Dowdle leading the way from him, the Panthers running back, Carolina Panthers running back, who's kind of emerged, former Cowboy, 25 carries for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 for 3 on his receptions, and 11 yards there for a grand total of 28.10 points in the upset win over the Packers. Jackson Smith-Njigba continues to be the best wide receiver in the league so far this year, hauling in 8 of his 9 targets for 129 yards, giving him a nice 22 even points. Trevor Lawrence having a bit of a resurgence game following against their matchup against the Raiders. He went 23 of 34 for 220. Did throw a pick early, but also had 2 rushing touchdowns on 9 carries for 24 yards for a nice 22.2 points there. And KJ Lee was the favorite coming in this one, just slightly. Did come away with the win here, much more than what was projected, 143.92 to 117.28. Zang, why don't you tell us a little bit about the bench blunders? I know I don't have the notes here for you to read it. I don't believe... Oh, there is one bench blunder over on JMC side, a certain Bears running back.
Yeah, so over there on JMC side, of course, we do see... McGonaghy, I believe his last name is Kyle McGonaghy, 22.8 points for him, and obviously in a matchup that would not have been decided by those 22 points. It stings just a bit less, but of course that does hurt when you see guys like, Kenneth Walker, who only had 8 points, and Rome Odunze, obviously a wide receiver, but could have slotted somebody else in without any points. So that one stings a little bit, I'm sure, on JMC's side. And then nothing else too untoward on the matchup, to be perfectly honest. It was a sort of a low event matchup, if you will. No big standouts note-wise. Other than that, I do just love to see when a matchup ties people up in record. JMC obviously entering 5-3 and KJ at 4-4. They are now both at 5-4. That is always interesting for standings purposes and all that kind of stuff. So that would be, I would say, one of my biggest notes. Obviously, apart from those 22 points that were on JMC's bench.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so not much you can do there, but however, I did want to include the bench blunder for that just because it was announced before the game that DeAndre Swift wasn't going to be starting. And so, Mangahai's projections changed before the game, and he ended up being projected like 15 points. And obviously, he very well much exceeded that one. So, wouldn't have mattered. Obviously, KJ winning by more than the points scored by Mangahai, but still wanted to include that nonetheless.
Yeah, tough too. On the other side of the coin, we talked about a great first week for Jackson Dart. Tough week for CJ Stroud with only 4.3 points there for JMC. That definitely stings to see on the other side.
Yeah, and then following that, because he got injured midway through that game, and for what's been reported, he will also be out again this week with a concussion.
Week, yeah.
So,
this week.
This coming week. Yeah, so definitely upsetting there to say the least. All right, moving over to our second to last matchup of the week, we have Flaming Prius taking on Bows, Bros, and O's. Flaming coming into this matchup as the heavy favorite, projected 149.87 to Bose' only 100.44. Flaming entering this matchup 4-4. Bose entering this one 3-5. Flaming getting things kicked off with Dak Prescott. 16.4 points by him, 24 of 39 for 250 yards, a passing touchdown, did throw a pick, also had 4 carries for 34 yards. Sam Darnold having a really big day on Sunday Night Football, I believe it was. 21 of 24 for 330 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. did have the one pick, however, robbing him, like Justin Herbert, of that 30-point performance, but still having 28.2 points there. Sam Laporta, the tight end's giving a little bit of love with a big day for him. 6 receptions on 8 targets for 97 yards and a touchdown, 21.7 points there. And Chase Brown, the Bengals running back, toting the rock only 11 times for 37 yards, but like some of these other running backs having big days this week, did most of his damage in the receiving game, hauling in 8 of his 14 targets for 75 yards to give him a nice 19.2 points. Bose fought valiantly, led by a massive resurgence from Brock Bowers, fresh off a bye week, fresh off, I wanted to say IR, but he wasn't actually placed on IR, but he was gone for like the last 3 weeks with an injury. He came back in a massive way, 43.3 points. He's hauling in 12 of his 13 targets, 127 yards, and a hat trick for the young tight end in Vegas. 3 touchdowns there as well. Just an absolute massive day there for the young tight end. I think Geno Smith is very happy to have him back. Marvin Harrison Jr. also having a pretty solid day as well. 22.6 points in that upset win over Dallas, hauling in 7 of his 10 targets for 96 yards and a touchdown. And if you guys haven't seen that touchdown yet, I strongly urge you to go watch the clip of Marvin Harrison Jr. just absolutely routing up Deron Bland. Just absolutely breaking his ankles. There's even a clip of CeeDee Lamb on the bench watching Deron Bland get his ankles broke, and he just kind of watches it in awe, just because it was that bad. You definitely hate to see that. Mm-hmm. This one, unfortunately, Bose did fall short, only putting up 128.8 points to Prius's 147.5. Bose kind of got a little screwed over by Kyler Murray's injury designation. He had been speculated that he was going to come in for a couple of plays. He might start. And then right before the game, they announced Jacoby Brissett was going to be the starter. And then shortly after the game, they announced that Kyler Murray was going to be placed on IR. So he'll be out a minimum of 4 weeks. So definitely a rough one there for Bose. I'm not quite sure how many points Jacoby Brissett scored, and if he's not even on a roster yet. But judging by the fact that Bose only lost by under 20 points, and Jacoby had a pretty solid game, if I'm not mistaken, that one could have certainly gone the other way had Bose had him.
Yeah, 24 for Brissett. 24 for Brissett this past week. So
24 would have, it would have been enough had Bose been able to pick him up quickly. Bose does have Jalen Hurts on a bye. So we did have 2 QBs on the roster. I'm not sure if he would have been able to place Murray on his IR slot before he actually was placed on the IR. So maybe might have gotten screwed in that regard.
All about the Cardinals not putting him on before the game.
Yeah. I think that's truly where Bose got screwed there. The Cardinals just really...
Fucking
Cardinals. Why don't you tell us a little bit of
Shides,
fun facts about this?
Wrong sport. No, look, Bose, for a team keeping me company at the bottom of the table, this is about as brutal as a loss gets. Bose pitched a perfect week. The most efficient manager of our week. He started everybody correctly. He recorded the most points in a loss with 128.8. And it was the narrowest victory with 18 points separating the two of them. So, much to Bo's chagrin, I hate to put it this way, but this does feel a little bit of a ball don't lie situation. Prius was projected as the overwhelming favorite, and despite almost everything going right for Bose, including a 40-point week from his tight end, it just didn't quite work out that way. So that is certainly a devastating loss on Bo's end. When you get 40 points from your tight end, you want to win the game. When you have a perfect week, you want to win the game. And it does, I have to say, especially fully understanding the perspective there with the Cardinals, it does feel like he kind of got screwed over by the Cards there. But we now have Bo sitting down there at 3-6, tied for the bottom, and Prius at 5-4, nice in that sort of mushy middle with a few of the other teams we've mentioned in this recap so far.
Yeah, definitely a brutal break there for Bo's Cardinals. We've seen it. We saw it with the Ravens, them trying to downplay Lamar's injury, saying he'll be back soon, saying that he was a full participant in practice, then coming to realize that he actually wasn't a full participant, and then, they ended up getting fined for that. So just teams with gamemanship trying to, not reveal their hand, but unfortunately in times like these it can really screw us over in the fantasy aspect of
exactly. Yeah, Jameson Williams too, 16.6 on Prius's bench. Obviously with the win you're not too upset about that, but that 15-point performance, obviously you do want to call out. It's just, oh hey, that's a guy left on the bench there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't a losing effort, and like you mentioned, I think the only person you would have considered replacing him with was Teteroa McMillan, but he's a wide receiver one.
Exactly.
Kind of tough to replace him in that situation. All right. Moving in now to our final matchup of the week, we have Sami Yanks taking on Anna Kendrick. Sami, the favorite in this one coming into the matchup, projected 140.64 to Anna's 130.42. Sami entering this matchup at 5-3. Anna entering this matchup at 3-5, looking to kind of rebound following last week's loss. Sami getting the scoring started, welcoming back Lamar Jackson with open arms, 18 of 23 for 204 and 4 passing touchdowns in his return. Also carried the rock 5 times for 14 yards for a nice 25.56 points there for Lamar. Christian McCaffrey as well, having another big day. He continues to be impressive this year in the fantasy realm. 28 carries for 106 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5 receptions for 67 yards and another touchdown. Once again, tallying up to a nice 34.3 points. Drake London continuing to have massive game after massive game. He had 38.8 points this past week, hauling in 9 of his 14 targets for 118 yards and another hat trick on the day, 3 touchdowns for the young wideout over in Atlanta. Michael Penix as well, his quarterback, of course, had to be on here as well. 22.74 points, 22 of 37 passing, 221 yards. Of course, like we mentioned, the 3 touchdowns, all to Drake London, also carrying the rock 2 times for 19 yards. So, Sami really cashing in on that 1-2 punch there with the quarterback wide receiver combo. And Anna was in for a tough day, though. He did fight valiantly. Bo Nix putting up 19.52 points himself, 18 for 37. Not a great day efficiency-wise, but he did have 173 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion to boot. Did throw a pick, however, also carried the rock 3 times for 36 yards. Devon Achane got the scoring started for him on Thursday with 16.6 points, 14 carries for 67 yards, hauling in 6 of his 10 targets for 39 yards for 16.6 points. Kareem Hunt also now the lead back in KC following the injury to Pacheco. Not sure how long he'll be out. He had a pretty solid day, 12.5 points there, 11 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown, hauled in 1 of his 2 targets for 6 yards. Atlanta's defense also having a pretty solid day for Anna, 12 points there. A pick did allow 24 points to New England, but they did have 6 sacks, including 2 forced fumbles, and also recovering 1 of them. Anna, unfortunately, was not able to do enough to combat the dynamic duo of Michael Penix and Drake London for Sami, and he wins this one 159.5 to 109.44.
Yeah, brother, it's Sami's world, and we're all living in it. This is what fantasy football dominance looks like. I have to mention this during the recap, but the top receiver and the top running back for the week were both on Sami's team. He is just absolutely dominant. You saw that, of course, in the spread here. Biggest blowout of the week, 50 points separating the two of them. Wow. It is hard not to look at Sami as the comfortable favorite for the championship this year. And it feels like he is set up well for years to come as well, which you got to consider in Dynasty where he doesn't have a lot of those 30-plus guys. Boy, is that a scary team. You just saw it all on display this week. And the return of Lamar was clearly a very, very helpful piece for him in sort of, reestablishing that dominance. Not that it really ever went away, but here we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yo, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, obviously happy to see Lamar back there for Sami. And yeah, Michael Penix, he's, like you mentioned, kind of had some up and down games. If he can kind of pull it together, I mean, he solely just seems to target in on Drake London. That offense is truly just Bijan and Drake London with a sprinkle of Kyle Pitts in there at sometimes. But yeah, this offense goes as Bijan and Drake London go, so that duo could prove to be very, very lethal for Sami. Kind of an underrated duo that nobody really saw coming later this year.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking of Sami's dominance, he is at the top of our standing segment, number 1 in the league, up 1 place from last week. Our only team who is sitting at 6-3. Sami is alone at the top of the leaderboard. That's somewhat new for us. Flaming Prius is in 2nd place, up 2 spots from last week, with Rangers Cowboys down 2 in 3rd place. KJ and Ace Garcia both up 1 spot from last week in 4th and 5th place, respectively. JMC down 3 from last week in 6th place, and Oki Sooner holding his 7th place position from last week does round out our teams in the playoff picture as of right now. Mike, although he is tied with those guys in record, is currently out of the playoff picture, up 1 spot from last week in 8th place. Al Martinet at 4-5, down 1 spot from last week, holds 9th place as of right now. And then our trio tied at the bottom, Zang, Bose, and Anna in 10th, 11th, and 12th, all holding our positions from last week. We are at 3-6, and starting to plan our Cancun vacations for our fantasy teams.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I honestly can't believe the resurgence I've had, 5 straight wins following the 0-4 start. Honestly, this matchup this week versus Rangers was the most terrifying one because he clearly had been the hottest team up until this point. But I think Sami has firmly cemented himself into that top spot, as you mentioned, the only one at a 6-3 record. It is still anybody's league, however. Only 2 games separate the bottom or the last place team with the 2nd place team. So, like I said, anything can still happen. Currently, we have 7 people tied with the same record. So somebody will get screwed if this stands come playoff time with only the top 7 making it. But yeah, I love, I loved it when it was only 2 colors for that 1 week. I wish we were able to maintain that, but I'll take 4. 4 colors ain't.
So you're saying I have a chance, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
I do.
100%
Yeah.
there's a chance.
Bye. No. I don't have a chance. That's okay. Starting off our team of the week, we do have quarterback Caleb Williams. Of course, as we mentioned for Mike's team, 38.7 points there. Obviously leading off the team. Christian McCaffrey with his 34.3 was Sami's first of that duo at the top of their leaderboards. Rico Dowdle, who of course Ace mentioned has been kind of that surprise showing for the Panthers this year. 28.2 for KJ Lee was our RB2 on the week. Drake London, the other half of Sami's dynamic duo, at the top of his win this week with 38.8 points, was our best wide receiver, with Ace's T. Higgins and his 33.1 points, our wide receiver 2. The unfortunate loss for Bose, of course, with Brock Bowers and his 43.3 points, of course, was the best tight end for the week. But it wasn't the only tight end on this list, as Colston Loveland, Mike's brand new tight end, had 29.8, and he was our top flex player for the week. Don't get too sad, Ace. Joe from Cincinnati, Joe Flacco, and his 32.7 was our best super flex on the week. Kiami Fairbairn, my backup kicker, actually did quite well. 17 points for him there, and rounding off with a nice little duo of the pod at the bottom, the Ravens defense with 17 points as well. Ace had on his team, and it was our best defense for the week.
Love that. Awesome. Don't have the total for this week. Apologies. Notes kind of got scrambled together last second. Usually we have our total together. I will read the wasted waivers right now. Zane, do you mind potentially?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you mind adding up that total?
Yeah. I'll get a punch in the calculator.
I just want to see if we break 300, man. That's the ultimate.
The chase for 3.
The chase for 300 is here. All right, starting over our wasted waivers. Andre, Iosivas? Oh, I always butcher his last name. Andre Iosivas, the wide receiver 3 over in Cincinnati, putting up 18 points like we mentioned. Joe Flacco having that massive day for 470 passing. So this 18 points from Iosivas is a potential bit of a red herring. His highest point total up until that point in the season was 13.20, and his highest up until that point was 7.9. So not a lot of volume being thrown his way, of course, with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. It's very tough to see him get very many targets. However, on these offensive outbursts like the Bengals are prone to have, he is definitely worth having. And if, hopefully not, we obviously knock on wood, but if an injury were to happen to Jamar or T. Higgins, I imagine Andre Iosivas would be a massive hot waiver wire commodity if and when that were to happen. Break here, 312 points, baby.
Ding, 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 ding.
We did it. All it took was Brock Bowers having a legendary performance.
Outscoring every quarterback in the league. That's what you want out of your tight end. 312 points. Congratulations, folks.
Awesome. The push for 400 is now.
We can do it.
We can do it. No. 350. I think 350 is the next reasonable goal. But kind of crazy that there's 2 tight ends. Never thought I'd see the day when 312 is what we break, and there's 2 tight ends on that list. So pretty cool there. But anyways, continuing on with the wasted waivers, Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas over in New England, having a really solid day this week. The 24-23 win the Patriots had over the Falcons. Douglas, obviously, in a pretty loaded wide receiver room is the wrong term, but there is just a lot of good pieces there. So Drake May does a great job of sharing the love with everybody there, so it's kind of hard to rely on him for a good amount of targets. However, he did have an insane day. I also wanted to mention, just because I saw it on the broadcast, that his uncle had passed away before the game, so prayers and condolences to him. And he had a massive day in honor of his uncle, his best career day by far, hauling in 4 of his 6 targets for 100 yards even and a touchdown there. So Douglas has been an integral part of that offense, not so much in fantasy, but just been making key plays here and there, as I'm sure my co-host will tell you.
You know it.
But yeah, so I just think he's had a couple of breakout games, this obviously being his best of the season, so he is due for those. But just, again, the volume and the sheer amount of talent in that room is tough to kind of see him get a consistent amount of targets.
Yeah, you said it well. It's a lot of good, not really the great. Stephon Diggs is kind of the closest we have to that, but even then, he's not like that true wide receiver one. So Patriots wide receivers are definitely tricky right now because they're getting a lot of good targets with Drake May, but you're never quite sure who is getting those targets. So, yeah, bit of a gamble there with Pop Douglas, but you might luck into a week like this where you get 20 points.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be somebody that you see added relatively soon. And the top wasted waiver of the week is a quarterback. And, of course, it had to be the guy that was throwing all those touchdowns to Brock Bowers, Geno Smith, with 27.26 points, his best performance of the season, throwing 39 times with 29 completions for 284 and 4 touchdowns. Of course, did throw the 1 pick. It wouldn't be a typical Geno game without an interception. That's obviously the big reason why you'd stay away from Geno at this point. Just has, 3, 6, 9, 10, at least thrown 11 picks on the season. We've only played 9 weeks of football, and they've had their bye. So they've only played 8 weeks of football, and he's thrown 11 picks in that time frame. Also, yeah, that's rough. Also, tough to say, too, that all of the easiest matchups for the Raiders so far have passed defensive-wise, and their toughest matchups are yet to come. So they got Denver next week, Dallas the following week, which should be a breather, but then Cleveland, Chargers, Denver again, Philly, Houston. I mean, it's just going to be an absolute gauntlet of rough defenses there for Geno. I fear this might be one of his last great games for the Raiders this season.
Sounds like to me you're perhaps not recommending people pick him as their new starting quarterback.
Yeah, Yeah. Probably don't want to pick him up unless you're absolutely desperate for one. And like I mentioned, not next week. Absolutely not next week when they play Denver. But the following week against Dallas, Dallas's defense is absolutely atrocious. We see that he can, get Brock Bowers the ball, and when he does, great things happen because he's obviously, in my opinion, the best tight end in football. So I think, play your matchups right. Potential, bye week pickup, we'll see. But yeah, gonna be a no from me there, Chief, on Geno Smith. Moving on now to the transaction tracker. Not a whole lot of waiver pickups, thankfully, because they are kind of boring. None that were, proved to be any difference maker in the games. I guess one of the biggest ones was myself picking up the Ravens defense, putting up 17 points there. But again, I won by much more than that, so it wasn't that much of a difference. Didn't really create any, no major moves that really shifted the direction of the games by any means. However, trades is when it starts to, we started to kind of delve into it. And the first trade here is one that absolutely just shatters my heart. So I was in the market for a running back, Chuba Hubbard. Of course, I drafted him, got the brand new contract last year, expected him to be a pretty big focal point for that Panthers offense and in my fantasy team. And Rico Dowdle just came in and said, yeah, fuck you, this is my job now. So you can go sit in a corner, and then he got injured. And then that's when Rico Dowdle was like, yeah, this is really my job now. So really tough there, losing basically a starting running back in that sense there. So I, was looking, scouring around, and I approached Mike. I'm like, hey, interested in J.K. Dobbins, kind of a younger guy. Injuries really derailed him to start his career, but he really picked it up last year for the Chargers. I loved him on the Chargers, and he's proven to be very consistent this year with the Broncos. So, I was like, you know what? I'd really like to make a deal there. Let's see what happens. Wanted to get rid of another Charger as well on my team just because I have so goddamn many. So I knew the Chargers bye week, once it approaches very soon, I am screwed. So I needed to kind of, recoup some of that. Sending away Quentin Johnston there, getting Deontay Thornton in return. And then the last part was just a bit of a sweetener for Mike, because I'm like, well, my tight ends are kind of useless, and he's done absolutely nothing. So what harm could come in trading him away, right?
Toss him in.
I got Tucker Kraft. I got Oronde Gadsden. I'm good, right? Wrong. Tucker Kraft tears his ACL. Colston Loveland has his breakout game. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to lead the league in tight ends for receiving yards the rest of the year. It just all went to shit, and I got a third-round pick in next year's draft from Mike in that. I don't even need you to tell me. Obviously, I lost this trade. This is just fucking brutal, man. This was a nightmare for me. What thoughts, Zang, on this trade?
How does it feel? No. Look, I think that this is the most the trade will ever sting for you. As much as I do think it is a solid pickup, Loveland is for Mike. I don't think he's going to be putting up those performances every week. It obviously stings a lot more with Kraft tearing that ACL there. But I think that the Loveland sting will subside in weeks as he goes back to those 3, 4, 5 point performances. But for this week, I have to say, just the podcaster in me really appreciates the drama that you provided, because that is absolutely cinematic.
Oh man, yeah, that was the eve of Halloween that I made that trade, and that one's gonna haunt me.
Quite spooky.
Yeah, quite spooky to say the least. Moving over to our next trade of the week, Anna Kendrick getting a couple of second round picks, getting a couple of draft picks there for Trevor Lawrence. Finally cashing in on that third QB, picks up a second and a third round pick. A second in this upcoming draft from KJ Lee, and a third in 2028 draft from KJ Lee. KJ, of course, getting Trevor Lawrence in return. So KJ suffering some heavy QB injuries. It's been a rough go of it from him, kind of shuffling between Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. The Niners, another team who have just been so mysterious with Brock's injury, it seems like. They don't want to start him because Mac has been playing well. They gave him the contract, so they kind of have to start him. So we're not sure what's going on there. So for KJ, it kind of gives him a little bit of QB, what's the word?
Security.
Security, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Or so I thought, because right after that, not even a day later, KJ Lee flips Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk over to Okie Sooner for Alvin Kamara and Marvin Mims. So KJ getting some running back and wide receiver help, flipping Trevor Lawrence for Kamara, who is a solid running back. Just unfortunately is on the Saints, but he is warranted to have big games here and there. He is the entire focal point of that offense, so a solid pickup for fantasy purposes. And Marvin Mims is a nice deep threat over in Denver. He gets open. Bo Nix just has a little bit of trouble with the deep ball. So it's just a matter of if he's able to get it over to him. But regardless, I think it's still a solid pickup. And for Okie, a solid pickup as well, getting, again, a quarterback and a wide receiver. Okie, let me pull up his team really quick so I can see who his quarterbacks are.
Yeah, he's got Matt Stafford along with Trevor Lawrence. So nice little combo there. Right. You know, yeah. some stability and some upside in that pair. That's a nice thing to look for in a super flex league.
Yeah, and Jaden Daniels just going out with an injury. His season most likely over, so Okie recouping a second quarterback there. A nice move for him there to kind of stabilize himself. And our final trade occurred. Oh, wait. Shit, that one's for next week. Apologies, we're not going to read that one. That's coming next week's show.
Don't look at the... No, but really, really nice work from KJ here. I'm impressed. Just, obviously getting Trevor Lawrence and then kind of being able to flip him for a couple of assets. I really like Alvin Kamara. I have a soft spot for Alvin Kamara. The only time I've ever won fantasy football was when I drafted him literally with my last pick in his rookie year when no one really knew who he was, and he exploded. I won the league that year, so he's always got a soft spot in my heart. Love you, Alvin Kamara. Marvin Mims is just a great pickup for him. Really nice asset management by KJ here. I think doing some work just to kind of shuffle things around and get Lawrence and then kind of flip him. So nice work by him I think solid work by Okie as well to kind of stay competitive this year as Jaden Daniels goes down. Obviously that's hard with such a high profile name like that, but although Lawrence obviously isn't going to give you the quite the ceiling or the floor that Daniels has, he does have, I think, an intriguing ceiling, and we all know what he kind of can be if that all comes together. So nice work by Okie as well to stop the bleeding a little bit there after that Daniels injury.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Zang, final segment of the week. Why don't you tell us about our upcoming matchup?
Yeah, let's talk it over. So we will start off with KJ's team. It is KJ versus Rangers Cowboys. Love one of these where it is two teams with the same record going up against one another, both at 5-4, looking to flip the script on each other. Zangarang versus Mike is our next matchup. Me, of course, I am sitting at 3-6, not so well there, with Mike also at 5-4 like those other guys.
You are a heavy favorite in this matchup.
It is interesting that we do see 65% in my favor. I have to take a look at Mike's roster. I wonder if he has not yet.
Anybody missing?
Okay, yeah, all right. So hey, this is the week. I say once again, this is the week. It's coming.
And before Mike stomps you by 80.
Yeah,
no, I'm joking.
It's not too far
Sorry,
off.
Mike.
Al Martinet versus Flaming Prius is our next matchup. Inverse records here: 4-5 for Al Martinet, 5-4 for Flaming Prius, going up against each other with Al Martinet as the favorite. 56% chance of him winning this week. Sami Yanks versus JMC is our next one. Sami, as we mentioned at the top of the league in first place, 6-3 for him. He does have a 61% chance of winning over the 5-4 JMC. But I've certainly staked my claim as to my belief in JMC. This is probably the matchup I'm most excited to watch this week. These are two real deal heavyweights, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how it all turns out. Okie Sooner versus Anna Kendrick is our next one, with Okie at 5-4, Anna at 3-6. However, in a bit of a theme for this next week's notes, Anna, the record underdog, is projected to win this matchup. 57% chance of him winning over Okie based on the projections. And finally, Bose and Ace are facing off against one another. Ace, of course, sitting at 5-4 with that group in the middle, and Bose at 3-6, down with me at the bottom. And once again, the Record Underdog is projected as the winner. 59% chance for Bose to take this victory over Ace. It'll be really interesting to check back in next week and see how many of these projected wins actually turn into wins, as so many of them are from Record Underdogs.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge matchup that potentially might come down to Monday night, or probably will come down to Monday night. Bose rocking Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith off their bye week. I do have Romeo Doubs in there as well, so we potentially could see some Monday Night Magic happen in this matchup. Stay tuned. Absolutely. All right, you guys. That is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Once again, please leave any recommendations or things you want to see in the Discord in our Dynasty channel. We are always open to updating the show and trying to change things for your guys' liking as much as possible. We love this league. It's been off to a great start. It's still very competitive. It is anybody's league at this point. And that's all you can really hope for. We're 9 weeks into the season. We don't know anything about football. Teams that shouldn't be winning are winning. And that's why we love this sport, because anything could happen on any given Sunday. So with that, guys, for myself and my partner here, Zang, my co-host, my lovely co-host, who makes the magic happen here on the back end, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching, and we will see you in next week's episode.
When you come out in NFL lollygagging and not going through the motions, that kind of happens.